here to talk about companies and trusts. I'm here with Adele Strong. Adele's done over 30 years of banking experience in numerous roles, from management down to starting out as a teller, and is now a mortgage broker for Smartline, and she's here to come and share her experience of companies and trusts. But before I start, I'd really like, if we're thinking about becoming a company or any sort of business structure, there's some key kind of questions and things that we I think really need to consider. And firstly, it would be, do I want to become my own boss? Do I have the capacity to be my own boss? Do I have the capacity to make the decisions that I need to move the company or business structure forward? The other thing would be that am I willing to sacrifice my 9-to-5 job? Am I willing to give up that income that sort of supports me and my family at this stage? The other thing I'd consider is, do I have the capacity to manage the money? Do I have the ability to do a BAS statement, or am I going to seek some advice or some assistance in that manner? I guess the whole thing is about optimism as well. Do I have the perseverance to hang in through those tough times? Because sometimes there are tough times in business, any sort of business, whether it be a sole trader, partner, company or trust. There are tough times out there. Look, would there be anything, Adele, that you would sort of consider before looking at some sort of business structure?
Yeah, look, they say in business that the first 2 years, if you're making money at the end of 2 years, that's about normal.
Right.
It's not normal that you go in and you hit the ground running and 3 months down the track you're raking it in.
Yeah.
The things that are the biggest contributing factors for failed businesses is the cash flow.
Right.
So being able to sustain the business through the quiet times, and actually being able to manage the finances is the other thing, and not everybody can do that.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, when you're giving up a job, you've got giving up the security of that 9-to-5 and the work cover and the superannuation, and now moving into some sort of business structure, you're responsible solely for all that, aren't you?
Absolutely. You get sick and nobody pays your sick pay.
Yes, and there's no holiday pay either. So, and I guess if you've got dependents, then that could be something you'd really need to consider. So Del, let's talk a little bit about companies. Like, what is a company?
Okay, a company, the biggest thing is it's a separate entity.
Okay.
So unlike we discussed previously about sole traders and partnerships, this is a separate entity altogether.
Right.
So it'd be like looking at a company like BHP.
Okay.
They have their own structure. You don't think of an individual and think about BHP. You look at the company as a whole that has assets and liabilities and employs a lot of people and pays taxes and has directors, but it's not an individual at all. And it's a revolving, progressive sort of an entity that is separate to the individual.
Okay. So what would be the advantages then of say, someone in the NDIS space going into the company?
I think the biggest advantage is the fact that you're at arm's length. You've got that separation from the individual and the company as far as financial responsibility. The company would definitely have to have insurance, but as a director, you are not financially liable for the losses of a company.
I see. So what would be then the disadvantages?
The biggest disadvantage would be the cost factor and the complexity of it.
Right, so is it quite costly?
Well, yes, it can be. You've got to establish it to start with. So very heavily involved in association with solicitors and accountants, so because you really need that independent financial and legal advice.
Okay, so even if I wanted to start a company in an NDIS business, what would I do?
Okay, the first thing you'd be wanting to decide is who is going to be in control of that company.
Okay.
So you might have a group of 20 people. Very hard to have 20 people as directors because it's too many people to make decisions.
Oh, I can see that as a bit of conflict.
Yes. So you can get bogged down, and the wheels can just clog up because nothing is moving because
someone has an agenda, a separate agenda.
Absolutely, because we're all in something for how it impacts us.
Yes.
And if you get a lot of people, so the first decision is who is going to be directly in control of that company.
Right.
So those people would probably be your directors.
I see.
And you wouldn't want, as I said, you wouldn't want 20 people as directors to a company. So maybe you're going to bring it down to 5 as an example.
Yeah.
Of course, that's to suit you, but who can you work with? The next thing would be, what are we going to call it?
Okay.
I mean, that could sound so simple, and there are companies that are like ABC Proprietary Limited, not the TV station, but things like that. So, is that going to define what your company does? It probably doesn't. But a company's a company.
Yeah.
But if you wish, you could make it something, a name that says something about what your company does.
Okay. So what then would I need? So I've got my company name, I've got my directors, did you say? So those are the decision makers, I guess they are. We've got decision makers, we've got a name. So what happens from there?
Okay, you've actually got to register that company.
Ah.
So once you know, and probably you're dealing with your accountant right from this start, because you need to do searches and make sure that company name you want is available.
And the accountant would do that, would they?
The accountant would do that. You could do searches yourself if you've got people that are comfortable to do that sort of thing, just in the initial, what are we going to call ourselves, but get your accountant involved. So you form a company, you register a company.
Right.
It is a something proprietary limited.
Okay. Yep.
Which actually defines that this is a company.
Right.
Because the proprietary limited means limited liability.
Ah, I see.
Okay. So you formed your company, you've got an ACN, which is an Australian company number, and you've got an ABN, Australian business number.
Okay.
The business number is what you would use more frequently.
Okay.
Invoicing or BASs or whatever, and you need a tax file number.
Okay.
Because it is a separate entity and the company pays its own tax.
Right.
So you do need a tax file number.
Okay.
Unlike your sole proprietor who has sole trader that just uses this normal tax file number, a company has a separate one.
I see. Sounds quite complex, Del.
It can be quite complex. There's certainly advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
Certainly it's not something you would undertake without that legal and financial advice.
Right.
Because you need to know how it's happened, or they need to know, the people that are actually managing those financial aspects need to know the
So
structure.
basically it would be linking with your legal service and your accountant to get this.
Yes.
And that's where the costs come from.
That's exactly right.
And they're annual, or
There are ongoing costs.
Right.
A company registration has to be an ongoing.
I
So
see.
you're paying an annual fee. You're paying for a lot more accounting.
Okay.
Because financials also have to be audited.
I see.
So there's more control from your government bodies.
I've got
The
you.
governing bodies that actually control the companies more so than sole proprietors or sole traders and partnerships. So lots more hands-on.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about trust then.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Okay, there's two types of trusts. There's a family trust or a discretionary trust. A lot of people don't realise that there's two of them. They are another separate entity.
Okay.
But unlike some people actually think they're like a separate company. They're not a company. Basically, they're just a tax minimisation entity, so a vehicle that's used to distribute funds.
Okay. So I could so if I was a trust, let's say, I could employ mum, dad, auntie, uncle as part of a company, and they would receive benefits from that area?
They could be collecting salary
for
what they're doing for the company, but at the end of the year there could be a profit
I see.
from the company, and that's when you distribute profit out to whomever. Yeah, so if it's a family trust, it could be sons, daughters, brothers, uncle, auntie, that sort of a structure. Discretionary trusts allows more flexibility in how much I want to distribute to each person. And they can be a wider group of people. So it might be community.
Okay.
It could be as big as that. But it's at the trustee's discretion.
Okay.
So a trust has a trustee, which can be a company or it can be individuals.
So I guess you would set this up the same with your legal.
Absolutely. It's not something you would undertake yourself. You have to have a trustee, which is the rules that are governing the trust.
I see.
So that has to be established. Generally, solicitors are involved in setting up a trustee and a trust entity.
I see. So once again, it sounds to be a bit costly.
Costly, complicated, but it does have advantages.
Okay. So thanks, Del, for telling us a little bit about companies and trusts. If you were to impart some wisdom from your over 30 years of knowledge and skills within this sector, and as we move forward into the NDIS and specifically in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island communities, which structure would you recommend?
When you're starting out, I would say keep it simple.
Okay.
Keep it very simple. That old business philosophy is keep it simple.
Yes.
So your most simple structures are your sole proprietor or your partnership, and it's easily managed. It works easily. There's really not a lot of ongoing costs. But it is important if you're going with a partnership that you make a formal agreement.
Okay.
So that there's no confusion.
Okay.
And
no conflict.
Conflict. Yeah. Avoiding conflict is so important in any business when you've got different people involved, different people, different agendas, different personalities. They all have an impact on. But if it's all laid down in the first place that we all contribute something and we all get paid X amount for the hours we work, it takes away a lot of the conflict. So definitely simplest structures, keep it simple.
Okay. Del, I want to thank you very much for being part of this series, and I look forward to you on many other videos that we create for this project. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.